6 Republican presidents stole their elections. We have to stop them from getting a 7th in 2024. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. It looks like Nancy Pelosi is going to submit the articles of impeachment to the Senate either today or Monday morning, and probably Monday morning, which means that the Senate trial could begin Monday or Tuesday of next week, which means that we may have a moment, an opportunity to finally hold one of our Republican presidents accountable for the crimes that they committed, either to get into office or in office. And that's the kind of the frame for this article that I published over at thomhartmann.medium.com. And you know, it starts out basically with Richard Nixon learning that LBJ knew that the Vietnam War was just incredibly toxic. In fact, it was ripping LBJ up. He would just burst into tears spontaneously at times. I mean, the death of tens of thousands of Americans and millions of Vietnamese just weighed on him. And he cut a deal in the summer of 1968 with both North and South Vietnam to end the war. And Richard Nixon found out about it, or his campaign found out about it, and through a woman named Anna Chennault, they communicated directly with the South Vietnamese and said, if you refuse to go to the Paris peace talks and just hold out until Nixon gets elected. Now, Nixon was running against Hubert Humphrey, LBJ's vice president, who was just as tarred by the war as was LBJ. So if Johnson could end the war before the election, I mean, that would be the ultimate October surprise, right? But he had been working on it for a year. I mean, it just, it's the pressure. But they were going to announce that in September or October of 1968, that the peace deal was done, that the war was over. And Nixon got in there and said to the South Vietnamese, which is a very corrupt, right-wing regime, said, I'll make you guys rich if you'll just wait until I'm president. And so they refused to go to the peace talks. The peace talks fell apart. The Vietnam War continued. Another 20-some-odd thousand Americans died. Another million Vietnamese died. Richard Nixon committed treason to become president. That was followed, obviously Jerry Ford, who came in on his coattails, and then Ronald Reagan did the same thing, essentially, with Iran, telling them that if they would hold the hostages that they had taken back in November of 1979, if they would hold them until after he was inaugurated president in January of 1981, that he would sell them all the spare parts they wanted for all the the military that the Shah of Iran had bought from American weapons manufacturers, which he did. He started shipping that stuff as soon as he became president, and did so for 5 years until he got busted in '86. That was called the Iran-Contra scandal. So they got the Reagan campaign committing treason to make him president, and of course George Herbert Walker Bush never would have been president if he hadn't been Reagan's vice president. And it looks like he was in on it too, which is how him and Bill Barr engineered, the Christmas Eve massacre in 1992, where they pardoned Ollie North and Caspar Weinberger and all these guys to avoid Bush himself having to turn over his diaries from that Iran-Contra time. And then, of course, you've got George W. Bush, who was only elected because his brother had thrown 60,000 more or less African Americans off the voting rolls in Florida, and the Supreme Court stopped the count. And then he lied us into a war in Iraq. I mean, isn't it friggin' time to hold a Republican president accountable for his crimes? That might happen next week. I'm very excited about that, and so that's why I wrote that op-ed this morning. And I hope you find it useful, and it's the kind of thing, I wrote it in a way that you can share it with your friends and let people know. The site doesn't have any advertising on it, by the way, so it's kind of cool. Okay. So there's that. I've discovered that, medium.com is sort of like the YouTube of the written word. And, it's just like all kinds of really great writers on there. And I'm parking an awful lot of my writing there as its first place for hitting the internet. The lawyer for the QAnon shaman, remember this guy with the, all body paint and wearing fur and the big horns and everything? His lawyer is now blaming Trump. His name, by the way, the QAnon shaman is what they call him. His real name is Jacob Chansley. And this is what his lawyer told KSDK, a local television station, or maybe it's a radio station. It's identified in this article as a local news station in whatever town it is where this rioter is from. His attorney, his name is Al Watkins, he said that Chansley regrets his actions and feels duped by Trump's claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Here's the verbatim quote. Quote, he regrets very much having not just been duped by the president, but by being in a position where he allowed that duping to put him in a position to make decisions he should not have made. Let's roll the tape, the lawyer said. Let's roll the months of lies and misrepresentations and horrific innuendo and hyperbolic speech by our president, designed to inflame, enrage, and motivate. What's really curious is the reality that our president, as a matter of public record, invited these individuals as president to walk down to the Capitol with him. In addition to this, Huffington Post has now noted 13 members of state houses or assemblies, 3 state senators, a county commissioner, a city council member, a Republican congressional district chair, a district director, and the co-chair of the Michigan Republican Party were among those who were in that crowd. Amazing. Last night, John Berman on CNN asked Anthony Fauci point blank if Trump's lies cost American lives. The way he phrased it was, did Trump's lack of candor and lack of facts about COVID-19 cost lives? Fauci said, you know it very likely did. Trump lied, people died. Anthony Fauci said it last night. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell remember yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, somebody called and said, what's this power sharing thing? And I said, it has to do with committee assignments or with committees. Because the Senate is 50-50, the committees are going to be 50-50. There's not going to be a Democratic majority on the committees. So who runs them? Well, back during, I think it was the Clinton administration, when there was a 50-50 Senate. And, you know, they cut a deal, and the Republicans were in charge. They cut a deal, and now, you know, Schumer's trying to cut a similar deal where Democrats will get to define the agenda, just like Republicans did back then, even though it's 50-50. And McConnell is saying, yeah, it's a very nice deal, but I won't go along with it unless we can keep the filibuster. In other words, McConnell wants to hold on to his ability to demand 60 votes, you know, out of 100 senators, and he's only got 50 senators. For that matter, Schumer only has 50 senators, or 51 with Kamala Harris as VP. McConnell wants to keep the filibuster intact, and you know, I'll tell you, Elizabeth Warren is having nothing to do with it. She says, I have just had enough of Mitch McConnell.